Most leaders I work with are drowning in feedback about their school and starving for feedback about themselves. The feedback you do get about yourself, it's phrased carefully enough that the real pattern gets softened out of it. And the feedback that would actually help, the small, unglamorous stuff, like you keep asking the same kind of questions every time you're avoiding a decision, nobody's watching closely enough or game enough to hand you that. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I live and am recording today, the Durrumbal people, and pay my respect to elders past and present, for they hold a deep and continuing connection to the land, sea and sky. Welcome to Trailblazing Schools, the podcast for educational leaders at the intersection of leadership, complexity and intelligent technology. I'm Trudy Graham. This is a space for leaders navigating uncharted territory. We explore strategic leadership, ethical innovation and how AI can strengthen the deeply human work of education. You've probably used AI to write an email this week. Maybe a staff meeting agenda, a parent letter, a tricky bit of feedback you didn't quite know how to phrase to get the tone right. And here's a question I'd like you to ponder for the duration of this episode. What if the tool you've been using to save time is also the best leadership coach you've never hired? Not because it's smart, but because it's been watching. The questions you ask at 6 a.m. before you've had a coffee, the drafts you abandoned halfway through, the things you keep coming back to, every prompt you've typed is a decision, a worry, or a way you framed a problem. And most leaders never think to ask it what it's seen. I was playing with a prompt last year that does exactly that. One sentence. It told me things about my own leadership I hadn't recognised myself, and it made me rethink what AI is actually for in the first place. By the end of this episode, you'll have the exact prompt and a genuine question about whether the tool on your desktop or mobile could be doing more for your growth than it's currently doing for your inbox. Most leaders I work with are drowning in feedback about their school and starving for feedback about themselves. You get parent surveys, staff wellbeing data, review panel notes, mountains of information about how the school's going, and almost none of it is about how you are going. The feedback you do get about yourself, it tends to arrive twice a year, filtered through a supervisor who's managing probably 30 other leaders. It's phrased carefully enough that the real pattern gets softened out of it. And the feedback that would actually help, the small, unglamorous stuff, like you keep asking the same kind of questions every time you're avoiding a decision, nobody's watching closely enough or game enough to hand you that. Which means the gaps that matter most are often the ones you can't see, because seeing them requires someone paying attention to you over time, not just to your outputs. Here's the reframe. If you've been asking AI for the last month, someone has been paying that kind of attention. It's just been Copilot, ChatGPT or Claude, and you never thought to ask it what it noticed. I ran this prompt experiment on myself for over 6 months last year and at random intervals this year. So let me tell you what actually happened, not the theory of it. I asked ChatGPT, analysing all my engagements with you over the last 7 days, what have been my strengths, where have I made progress, and what are the gaps I may not be aware of? The strengths section was a surprising affirmation. I got clarity of vision and strategic intent, high cognitive ability and reflective practices, audience sensitivity and ethical grounding. And with more than 30 years in educational leadership, I'm glad that shows in my interactions. And just for the record, no, I haven't used it to write a job application. It's not sucking those words from that platform. The progress section was like a list of micro celebrations. Clear evidence of distance travelled on the problems and challenges in my professional practice that I'm grappling with. I'm currently reading Amabile and Kramer's Progress Principle, which reports on their study that's identified that making progress on meaningful work is the single most significant factor contributing to positive inner work life. So seeing that list of small wins on my chat screen is motivating. And I'll confess, I had taken some of them for granted and I had forgotten others. At the end of a week or month, acknowledging progress, even if it's something that's not fully completed, is very rewarding. Now, the gaps section. Honest and ouch. I got over-layering and complexity creep, hidden perfectionism in iteration, and emotional load management as just a couple that I picked out. And they landed in the gut because it's true. And it's true in a way that no one else has the vantage point to tell me, even my supervisors if I still had one. Because they don't see the consecutive days of how I actually think through problems. And the gap isn't a character flaw, it's a habit, visible only in the aggregate over time across dozens of small decisions, exactly the kind of pattern a person is too close to in their own work to spot. That's the turning point for me. This isn't AI telling you who you are. It's AI showing you your own paper trail, which you wrote, and asking you to actually read it. If you see yourself as a trailblazer and you're looking for structured, strategic support to lead with clarity and conviction, visit trudygraham.com.au/connect. That's where leaders begin the conversation about working together. I'd welcome the opportunity to partner with you. Okay, now let's get into the insights. Firstly, your conversation history is a leadership diary you didn't know you were keeping. Every prompt you've typed is a decision, a worry, a priority, a way of framing a problem stacked up. That's data about you. Second insight, patterns are easier to see in retrospect than in the moment. You can't notice you're avoiding risk assessment while you're mid-decision. You can notice it when a 30-day pattern gets handed back to you in one paragraph. Third insight, this works because AI has no stake in managing your feelings. A colleague softens things. A supervisor picks their moments. The AI, it just reports what's there, which means the gap section is often the most honest feedback you'll get all term. Fourth insight, strengths and progress matter just as much as the gaps because most leaders undernotice their own growth. If you've shifted from, for example, asking for full rewrites to asking for edits, that's evidence you're building capability. And you'd never think to track that yourself. Fifth insight, this isn't a one-off. Run it routinely and you get something better than a review cycle. You get a trend line of your own leadership written in your own words month over month. You can ask it to look back over a period of time that works for you. So on Friday, you could ask for the last week. End of the month, ask for 30 days. Whatever time frame you pick, repeat it. Save the responses in a digital file and compare the responses over time. Use them to set clear intentions for yourself. It's fascinating. Sixth insight, and this is the bigger provocation. We've mostly been using AI to move faster. Draft the email faster, plan the unit faster, answer the parent faster. Useful, but it's AI making you more efficient at being who you already are. This prompt points at something different. AI making you more aware of who you're becoming. That's not a productivity gain, that's a development gain. Most schools have spent 2 years asking, how do we use AI to save teachers time? Almost none have asked, how do we use AI to make our leaders and teachers better at the actual craft of leading and teaching? That's the real provocation under this whole episode. The tools sitting on your desktop that you've been treating as a very fast assistant might also be one of the most honest professional development tools you've had access to. You've just never pointed it at yourself. So, rounding out the episode, here's the question. If you ran this prompt today, what's the one pattern you suspect it might name that you've been hoping no one would point out? And I always love to leave you with a next step. So here's a practical action for this next week. This whole prompt works if you regularly use a large language model and have saved conversations in the model. Open whichever AI tool you already use for work, ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude, whatever's already part of your week and has conversations that you've had with it saved. And paste in this exact prompt. Analysing all my engagements with you over the last 30 days, what have been my strengths? Where have I made progress? And what are the gaps I may not be aware of? Read the whole response before you react to any one line. The strengths bit will feel affirming. The gaps bit might sting a little, but let it all land before you decide what to do with it. Then pick one thing, just one, and write down a single specific action you'll take this week because of it. One action. That's the whole task. 15 minutes, one prompt, one honest paragraph about yourself you didn't have last week. Oh, and if you love this prompt, send me a message and let me know what landed for you. So, next time you're about to ask AI to draft another email, remember you're also building a record of how you lead, whether you mean to or not. Ask it what the record shows. You might be surprised by the strengths. You'll probably recognise the progress once it's named, and the gaps are the whole reason this prompt is worth the 15 minutes of your week. And here's the bigger question I'll leave you with. If 15 minutes with a prompt can show you a leadership gap nobody else was positioned to see, what else might this tool be capable of showing you if you started asking it better questions? Until next week, take care. You've been listening to Trailblazing Schools with me, Trudy Graham. If this episode brought someone to mind, share it with them. You'll find further reflections, practical resources and leadership tools in the show notes. Until next time, lead with courage, seek clarity and keep trailblazing.